Namaste and welcome to Boom Up Bharat with Rama Shivkumar, founder CEO SRK Game Changers, where we bring you a new update each week on GCC. SRK Game Changers is a GCC consulting service organization providing advisory, governance, and setup services across talent, business operations, and workplace solutions. We deliver customized, high performing GCCs that encourage AI and digital innovation. We leverage the expensive skilled talent pool, grooming the next generation leaders of tomorrow. Our tailored workplace solutions build technology as a core foundation. Thank you so much for the encouraging remarks and the feedback on the uniqueness of the podcast and themes that we choose to discuss with our guests. We're really honored by this feedback. And today we have yet another unique theme and guest, Rakhi Prasad, who is a finance and technology leader and who's turned AI entrepreneur now, whose work sits at the intersection of data, intuition, and human judgment. And the theme today is going to be again very unique: data, strategy, and AI driven decision, turning GCC location choices into competitive advantage. So, welcome Rakhi to Boomer Bharat.
Namaste, and thank you so much for having me here.
And before we go ahead, Rakhi, first of all, thank you so much because your theme is very different. Everybody after the AI India Summit, everybody's trying to understand how the AI, data, governance, all of those things could be linked, and specifically for the GCCs. So I think going to be good before we get into the theme and the topic. If you could also introduce yourself for our audience.
Yeah, sure. So, I have more than 25 years of experience, out of which 23 years of those experience was in the investment management world. I was part of Goldman Sachs in New York, part of their trading technology division, then moved to India, to Mumbai specifically, and was an investment banker. Then, for about 7, 8 years, towards the end of my financial investment management career, I was working in a fund as research and then co-fund managing as well. So have a lot of experience working with data across financial asset classes, and that inspired me to look at different sources or alternate sources of data to see how business can benefit from assessing and analyzing alternate data sources to improve their business outcomes. And that led us to start Clarity X, which is a data driven analytics firm, and went back to technology where I had started my career. I am a computer science and economic graduate and have done my master's in financial engineering. So everything kind of came back in full circle where technology, data, and looking at business outcomes is what inspired us to start Clarity X.
I was about to ask you the same question that you come the say, full circle in terms of where you started back in India after being in US for so long and now, starting your own company and that, looking at an area which is very, very niche area and not everybody, and especially, if you look at women leaders kind of, driving more deep into that area. That's so wonderful. I think it'll be good to kind of talk about and explore how we could work on that area. So I think before we get into this, Raki, I would like to kind of also understand how GCC leaders, especially when we're talking about data-driven analytics, the propensity, risk, and the catchment models can help them decide where and how to establish capability centers that can deliver real business impact for them.
Yeah, so if I just take that problem statement, right, a lot of GCCs or a lot of MNCs are looking at India to set up their capability centers, right? And hence they're focused on where can I find the talent, where should I place my GCC, which cities are rising, which cities are already too overcrowded, and hence a lot of factors come into place. If you are an MNC that has a lot of supply chain interaction with a lot of supply chain vendors, then you would want to be somewhere situated close by. So each GCC will have its own criteria set in terms of what they're looking for. But if one breaks it down into understanding what are the key priorities or key reference points, usually topmost is always talent, and then it's all about the ecosystem where they would find these spaces. And depending on the size and the growth that they have in mind, where would they be able to retain that talent and grow their talent base in that location? So, when we look at any kind of catchment analysis for a location that someone is looking to set up, it is all about understanding these parameters and then finding the right options. Because frankly speaking, the real world doesn't translate into what you imagine in the virtual world. So you have to have a priority list and an option list so that you can close out one of the locations that works well for you.
In fact, you mentioned about the virtual world. Today, we tell people that yes, we could create a digital scenario for you, which can be digital twin, and you could really look at how is that your factories and things are going to be shaping up for you. That's a good point because it's very important these days that we need to ensure that you need to be able to analyze your data, okay, which is very important because data is going to be the next layer that we're talking about when you're going to use AI, and you should be able to analyze to solve business problem. I think a good point you mentioned about it over there. You were also there in the AI summit, Impact Summit. So, what's been your observation from there, looking for data, AI, and what we're talking about the Vision 2030?
First of all, I think the AI Impact Summit, it's a event that happens in different countries every year. And the one that India hosted this year actually opened the world's eyes to what India is doing on the AI front, right? While the world thinks about China and US as leaders in this space, there's a whole host of solutions and talent that India is bringing to the table. And it was good to see that brought right up front and center so that people understand that we're not shying away from this technology revolution. We are participating in it. So it's all about, understanding. Impact Summit created this whole wave internally in the country in terms of building awareness about AI. And I think that's a big win for the proponents of people understanding that AI is a disruptive technology. And unless people understand the benefits and the use of it, how can we take advantage of it? So, awareness building, then a huge wave of government support in terms of ensuring that there's a, long pipeline of talent. And India is well known for its engineering talent, and skill sets are now going across not only engineering roles but across various other roles. So awareness, talent pipeline, and adoption of using this technology. It was really heartful to see people when they were visiting even our stall at the AI Impact Summit. They were coming from all across the country. There were 20-year-olds from Assam, 23-year-olds from Pune, Maharashtra. So it was really, really good to see that there's a lot of curiosity. And I feel that if the young talent adopts it, they're the ones who will quickly adopt this technology and imbibe it, which then transitions and transforms industries along the way. It was also good to showcase what we are doing in this space, how we are using AI driven workflows to analyze and understand alternate data sets to solve for customer business problems. And that interaction with various types of, whether it was policymakers, government, ministries, people who work across different industries, when they were interacting, it was heartfelt to see the interest, the curiosity, and what is happening in the private sector.
Yeah. So thank you so much for this. I think the related question I would like to, because I keep hearing you talking about augmented intelligence rather than just artificial intelligence. So in the context of GCCs, how do we shift the culture from AI as a replacement to AI as a superpower for our engineering and finance team?
So I'll give you an example of one particular leader that we are doing and continue to do work for. In terms of, his thought was very simple. He said that if today my workforce is spending 12 hours a day, doing something, can I reduce or give them back 4 hours of their life every day because they are able to adopt AI as a technology to become more efficient. Now, it doesn't mean that those 8 hours will be equivalent to 12 hours of output. It also means that those 8 hours will be more productive per person. So, hence, the way that leaders should look at this change or this technology is, how can they reimagine their work flows for their workforce to be more productive and also to then accelerate their revenue streams or experimentations that they want to do. And I think that's what AI allows units or managers to actually experiment more. Like for instance, if you want to showcase a prototype to a customer or to your internal teams, it's so quick to do it now.
Yeah.
Earlier, it used to take weeks or months. of planning and build out. But now you can literally build out a prototype and run it in front of management and senior management and get the feedback loop. So data analytics as a field has trained practitioners to actually fail fast. We, as practitioners of being a data person, I'm always looking to understand what are those data points or what is that prototype that resonates with the person that needs to ingest it or use it. So, hence, if I'm able to quickly showcase something, get feedback, or re engineer my process workflows, I think it's amazing how we can accelerate our efficiencies across the board and grow our revenues.
Raki, in fact, when we were discussing, you really had a very good point around something that you could trying and doing with some of the manufacturing companies using data. It'll be really good for our viewers if you could, talk something around those lines.
Yeah, so some of the projects that we have embarked on and are starting to work for are manufacturing companies. It's all about how can I improve my cost efficiencies. But I'll also add a little bit here. So while I walk through the example, I'll showcase it's not only about reduction of cost, it's also about how you can increase revenues, right? So if you take like a manufacturer, large manufacturer of any building material, whether it's steel, cement, etc., logistics is a big cost for them, right? So how do you optimize their logistics from turnaround times of a truck coming into their plant, transiting, and delivering the product, right? So that whole time taken, how do you optimize that? So one of the projects that we did for a large manufacturer was that we were able to identify for just one plant 30% of their truck trips that could be improved. So imagine the cost implications in terms of if they could improve the efficiency of 30% of their total truck trips, that could reduce their cost by 4 to 5%. And also in the process, the vendors that they are working with, the 3PL or the truck vendors, they could help them increase the vendors' revenue by 1 to 2%. Now look at the ecosystem of the supply chain. If any vendor is getting improved revenue, won't they work with that customer and supply the resources to that customer? So the efficiency gains are not only in terms of your own P&L reducing, but also commitment and supply chain efficiencies and also visibility from your vendors as well.
So, in fact, you've again, being a CFO, that's very close to my heart. I always keep saying that we need to look at business outcomes. We also need to look at in terms of, new markets where we could, use our products, and also look at in terms of, improving your sales revenue as well.
Throughput.
My next question I was about to ask you was that also that, how is AI informed analytics can mitigate some of these risks as well, both financial and operational risks. Any examples from that perspective?
Absolutely. So when you think about risks in the data world is first of all, are you sourcing your data sets ethically? Especially now with so many countries looking at digital privacy, data privacy norms. India has the DPDP Act that's being enforced. Europe has GDPR, etc., etc. First thing is make sure that you're sourcing whatever data. If it's your internal data, obviously it's your internal data. But if you're sourcing external data sets, is it being sourced ethically? Because you don't want to be caught on the wrong foot. Because data is the raw material for all your AI models, correct? Then back testing using your models. What type of AI models are you using? How is it the accuracy improving by getting better data sets? And also putting at the beginning itself, not after the fact, that are the guardrails in place, right? That you want to operate under. You're not going to take decisions that might harm your own constituents, whether it's any of your stakeholders, or it creates an impact on the industry that you're operating on, right? So you need to think a little bit ahead of time in terms of what are the guardrails I'm going to operate in the space in my work streams. So I'll give you an example of where risk can get highlighted. Early warning signals can get highlighted early on when you deploy technology, whether it's digital transformation technology or whether you use AI to kind of predict where risk can emanate. So one of the customers, it was a banking customer that we worked with, they were trying to understand. So they give out mortgage loans, for instance, right? And hence they require a whole documentation of paperwork to assess whether they want to give out the loan or not, and that documentation comes from third parties. Hence, is there a way for the bank to validate what is the third party providing? And we were able to provide them a solution for that. And within 1 month of using the technology that we deployed with them, they were able to identify 32 crores worth of fraud. Now, that's across very few loan applications, but imagine this validation of a third party source.
Yeah.
This is where you want to make sure your work streams are agile enough to catch these early signals, because then you don't want it to compound over a period of time.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think you rightly mentioned about AI, GDPR, some of these things are there, and people keep asking when, we're talking about that, where do you store the data? Is it ethically stored? And so I think,
Locally stored, if
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
India has a
very
lot
much,
of rules
there.
around that. Yes.
So on a similar lines, when we were working for in UK, we could help a client open their customer open the account in 5 minutes as compared to days it used to take. So there is a lot of power in the data that we're trying to use. So I think as an expert, I would also like to understand, because we're talking about all big fortune, 500 plus companies and all. But what about mid-sized companies who are actually trying to explore, their global strategy and ongoing execution related to India? So how could they move operations and actually also grow their value using
I
data?
mean,
Yeah.
yeah, so essentially, I think our mandate when we started Clarity X was clearly to see how we can democratize data analytics, right? Now, it's a very heavy word or heavy phrase, right? What does democratize mean? That means that, can I provide the same level of service that a Fortune 500 company could afford to, SMBs,
Yeah.
MSMEs, right?
Yeah.
So, hence,
Middle-sized companies, or like, we say for the mid-sized companies outside.
absolutely. So then, in that sense, can I build out technology platform in which MSMEs can also benefit from the solutions that Fortune 500 companies are essentially paying up for? So that's our endeavor. It's our vision that we can do this. We're taking the steps to build out the platforms and the technology. Hopefully, along the way, we will be able to, it can become affordable. And that's the main crux of the matter in terms of how MSMEs want solutions. They want Ferrari based solutions, but can afford only scooters.
Yeah.
So, how do you bridge that gap is where this journey is. And I think the technology available to us today allows for that bridging of the gap.
No, no, thank you so much. I think it'll be good to also understand the around, 2030 vision that we say. We say that if you have to look at GCC dashboard in the year 2030, which metrics do you think will be more important?
I mean, if you're asking me from the AI specific realm or lens, GCCs typically are entities that support global operations. From whose perspective the metrics are defined in terms of how GCCs that are being set up here in India, how do they look at their success? So, is it the ability to provide solutions more real time? Is it the ability to provide solutions, more solutions with the same number of people? Or is it the ability to actually do a lot more experimentation? So, a lot of the R&D work can happen, which gives product or business ideas of what can be deployed globally. So I think it really every GCC to their own. But broadly, I think the base that India provides gives that ability to GCCs to do all of these, look at all of these three factors. They will probably give different weights to it. But that's what I think the Indian talent pool and the Indian market, even if you want to experiment for your global operations, the Indian market also allows for some of these experimentations to be done.
Yeah, no, that's what we say, and look at the kind of support the government is providing. Sometimes you see that there's a competition between the state governments. Where is that you can come and set up a center
So
where
that's
they
very
do.
good for
Yeah,
GCCs, right? I mean,
yeah,
they get the best deal.
yeah, would get the best deal which is there. And I think just one rapid fire question here also. AI in GCC decision making, how do you see that as a competitive edge or a necessity?
No, it's a necessity.
Thank you
In
so much.
today's world, it's a necessity. I think unless your top leadership is not thinking of it as a necessity, it won't go down as a necessity.
Okay, okay. And I think another question we did speak about earlier, augmented reality or augmented intelligence, which will change the Indian workplace faster?
Augmented intelligence. I think we're an intelligent species. Let us use the tools to become even more imaginative, even more product solutioning mindset. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So I think Raki, I wanted to also just, more free flow right now in terms of understanding any example or something you feel that you would like to kind of, share with our viewers again, especially the mid-sized companies in US, UK or Europe, which will be very beneficial for them to look at and not, have a kind of a fear.
Essentially, businesses have their own operations, right? They have a system in place that they're working on or working through, whatever they've established in their operations. I think they should look at India or GCCs in India to see how they can cannibalize their own workflows. What can they take out which can be reimagined completely in terms of how, especially in this area. So I'll give you an example of a marketing example. For instance, when companies are looking to open up their stores, or how are they going to generate more footfalls into their stores? This is an offline network. I mean, the world still operates largely in offline. The online world contributes in different shares across different countries. But in India, online is probably not even more than 10% of total retail sales, for example, right? So there's a whole offline network that still needs to be thought of, planned, get more footfalls in. Now, when you think of footfalls, then you want to know, how do I advertise to that consumer cohort that my consumer cohort is, either through online digital means or through below the line activities offline. Now this is where you want to see the impact. If you do something in your ad, you spend x amount of money on advertising, what is the immediate impact on footfalls, on sales? But can you attribute that to more location based segmentation, saying that, okay, I ran a TV campaign in the state of Delhi, I have 20 stores in Delhi. What was the real time impact on sales in Delhi per store? What was the footfall? How many people searched and went to my store? So, if I can get this feedback loop, I can recalibrate my TV ad campaign in real time. Instead of saying that I allocated 300 crores of rupees for TV advertising, and I don't have visibility of how much that I would know at an overall level, but can I get more real time visibility? And I think those workflows or work streams cannot be thought of incrementally. They have to be thought of at a macro level. How would I change my whole evaluation methodology? And I think that's what companies should actually think of, using the GCC base to build some of that and then transition or transform their existing workflows.
See, when I was in Hong Kong long time back, I would say 1997, American Express used to have card membership form and used to fill up a code of, road shows or how these things are coming up. And it used to be, not an easy task to analyze the data. Today, with the kind of examples you explained, that data can be analyzed and found out where exactly the more sales are coming up, which is the area that you can focus on, which area your product is not selling. Okay, all these things, the example you said, that were really wonderful. So thank you so much for that, Raki. And I would like to also kind of, thank you for joining us today for Bhuma Bharat. I know the discussion is quite interesting, the examples you're sharing. So it's hard to say that we'll have to stop here. But thank you so much, Raki, for joining us. And for the viewers, that the way how data driven analytics can be explored, and the way Raki shared AI models, the strategic finance thinking will help global firms make smarter GCC decisions, from where to invest, how to scale, and how to stay competitive. So that was really very good to hear from you, Raki.
Well, thank you for having me on your podcast. It was a pleasure to share my experience and learnings, and wishing you all the very best.
Yeah. And for the viewers, thanks for tuning into this special episode of Boom of Bharat. Don't forget to subscribe for more insights on the ideas and innovations shaping our world. If you have any thoughts or stories to share on this topic, we would love to hear from you. You could connect with me on LinkedIn SRK Game Changers or drop your questions on our website srkgamechangers.com. Until next time, namaste from Boom of Bharat.
Namaste. Thank you.